Good morning, good evening, at whatever time of the day it is around the world. I would love to welcome our special guest, Steve Vincent, who is now a published author. He is a poet and a spiritual teacher, and he helps people overcome their challenges and live their Dharma. Now, Steve, you're going to have to help me with this word. He is a reclusive apocryphile. You're going to have to tell me what that is.
It sounds a little bit rude, doesn't it? But it means I'm a lover of sunsets.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we face west, and most afternoons I'm out the back and overlooking the water and the sun going down. It gives me a lot of inspiration. It's where I get a lot of stillness from, and really connect with with Mother Earth and just with the beauty of nature. So
fantastic. Yeah. So Steve lives on the Sunshine Coast, and when not riding and leading groups can be found at one of the beautiful local beaches communing with Mother Earth. So Steve, we have known each other since about 2009 when we did a course together.
Yep. And
I have to say that you are one of the nicest people that I've met in the last 12 or 13 years. So it's an absolute honor to have you in our community sharing your wisdom. And how we reconnected, Steve bought our cards that we published a few months ago, and I was blown away, and I had to contact him and say, Steve, what's going on? And so we've reconnected, and it's really beautiful. So I thought after chatting with Steve for an hour or two back then that it would be awesome to introduce him to the rest of you. So Steve, tell us what happened to make you write your poetry and then publish a book. Tell us the story.
Life happened, Julie.
Mm-hmm. It has happened in the last 2 years.
Yeah, life happened. Well, I've always written poetry, at least on and off. I think if I'm really transparent, part of me has always loved poetry, and the other part of me has always run from it because it's not very manly. Because you have to look at your feelings, and I went to an all-boys school. I've been in leadership roles in education and so forth, and that required, well, at least I developed the belief that required a certain hard exterior. And what that made me do was it made me close off a whole part of myself. And I came to a point where I just realized that didn't serve me. Showing up in the world as that closed off, gruff exterior, maybe even at times aggressive, gruff exterior, in a business world, really, it just didn't serve me. And so COVID came along, and you and I have our copywriting background, Julie. I was a high school teacher, head of department, deputy principal as well. So I've had a few careers. And I had been on a personal development journey for a number of years. I've been to the Amazon and done ayahuasca, and I've done workshop after workshop and read all the books. And, just like a lot of people in this space, we do a lot of stuff, right? We keep looking and we keep searching, we keep digging, we go deeper and deeper. And so COVID came along, and that had a pretty big impact on my business. I lost a really big client, and that really hurt. And I'm not blaming them at all. It's probably more my fault than theirs, but it was still the bump on the road. And I had a little bit more time, and so I just took out pen and paper and I just started writing stuff. And it rhymed a bit. And then so I just wrote more, and I showed a couple of things to a few people, and they just kind of went, oh wow, that really hits me here. And I didn't set out to write poems for other people. It was just kind of the shit that I was feeling, if I can put it that way. And it was kind of like, it was almost like this protective chest plate that I'd had been ripped off, and it was just stuff that came from my heart. And so it's very raw, it's authentic, and a lot of, particularly women who've read it, they cry. Because it's so raw. And I know when you read it out, Julie, last week with our recordings, you were very emotional as well. And you know, the interesting thing too, Julie, is that when you show one or two people that, and that's their reaction, that could just be one or two people's reaction, but almost invariably, either people said nothing because it was too confronting for them, or they went, "Oh wow, my God, that really hit me here," and it kind of just went from there. And so I just kept writing and bit of editing, and pretty soon I had like 50 or 60 poems, and I write a few more, and thought, oh well, this might make a reasonable book if that visceral reaction comes from people. And I think what the really interesting thing too, Julie, it made me realize that my pain was in many ways humanity's pain.
Yeah.
And I'll just give you an example. My chiropractor who lives next door, he said to me just before he did the adjustment on me a week or so ago, he said, you know, I haven't read all of the book, he said, but I was feeling really crappy. And I flicked it open to a page and I read a poem, and I just went, oh, wow, that's actually how I'm feeling. He said, that made me feel better in the moment, that I wasn't the only one feeling that and thinking that. And that seems to be that reaction, but I never set out to do that. I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what happened the day that you decided that you're going to put it into a book?
Yeah. I got really, really scared.
Did you?
Yeah, no, totally. Because it's really, and this is part of me and who I am as well. I don't like being exposed. You know, I like hiding. I like just to let life wash around me and not poke my head up. I'm not an extrovert. I'm a really big introvert. And I mean, it sounds interesting when I've spoken in front of crowds of 2,000 and stuff, but you know, that I'm still an introvert, right? And so it's one thing to put a show on a stage, but it's another thing to really talk about how you really feel.
Yes.
And that, I guess probably what it did, and I mean, the book's called Finding You, and it's been kind of prophetic in that that's kind of been my journey of finding myself all along. And one of the things I found was that how goddamn frightened I was about being exposed and being laughed at. And that gets back to stuff I'd, you know, shoved down into my shadow as a little kid and accepted. And so it's been really humbling, but it's also been really empowering, I think. You know, instead of all those fears, of all the things that I don't want to see in myself, I don't run from them anymore.
That's awesome, Steve. So I really, really resonated with the second part of the book title. And I've got the book here, guys. That's it there with the beach and the sun. Is Poems and Reflections for the Journey into Your Shadow Self. So how has that journey into your shadow self changed you?
Yeah. If I can just read that quote from Carl Jung, Julie, he said that everyone carries, and I didn't know this till I knew it and started looking at it. And he said that everyone carries a shadow, and the less it's embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. He said at all counts, it forms an unconscious snag thwarting our most well-meant intentions. And what I got from that was that it felt like life had a glass ceiling. It felt like there was always something holding me back, or a dark blanket over me, not quite allowing me to shine. I mean, like I said, I'd reached middle upper management in education. You know, you and I both know about copywriting. I've done very well at that. So it's not like I don't have success. It's not like there aren't material things, but it's kind of almost like the way I feel about myself and how I show up in the world. That's kind of been the change. And so that's forced me to look at all of those parts of me that are in my shadow that haven't wanted to love my whole life. And I'll just share this with you too. Just really recent, or last week, in fact, I had a couple of knockbacks from some local bookstores about the book. And so rejection, right? That hurt. That really hurt. And examining that, looking into my shadow, the old me would have just gone, oh yeah, you bastards, and got on with life, and I would have moped for days and you know, been cranky with the world and suffered in silence, and just shoved everything back there and pretended it didn't affect me. but it hurt. And what I did was I actually looked at where and why it hurt so much. And it got back to childhood and rejection and feeling small and all those spin-off kind of fears of feeling broken and shrinking and not wanting to be seen. And once I actually loved that part of me, it's surprising how the energy I was putting out into the world actually changed. And so this week, 3 more stores have said they'll actually, they'll stop the book.
Fantastic, Steve. So congratulations. And I want to actually come in here because this is the work that Tash and I are doing about understanding that what happens in your outer world is actually a reflection of what's going on in your inner world. And that, I'm going to cry now. What Steve has done with this book is he's given you threads down into your shadow so that you can inspect what's going on in your inner world. And I mean, really inspect it, feel it, how Steve did last week. And when you see your shadow, when you love your shadow, I'm not talking about ejecting it or denying it or trying to cut it out of your life. When you see it, feel it, accept it, love it, the energy that emanates from you shifts. And then your outer world reflects that. And so this is an amazing example of that, Steve, in that 3 more bookstores accepted your book into their store. That's what we're all about, is the dance between the inner world and the outer world. And I'm so thrilled for you. I seriously am, because that's an awesome example of doing the work. That's what we mean when we say do the work. And it doesn't need to involve anyone else. It involves you and your willingness to inspect. So, Steve, I would love for you to read a poem, but I'm going to share with our community how I choose a poem.
Okay.
So I go like this, and I close my eyes and I feel into the book and I say, I know there is a message in here for me today. Please reveal the message for our community, and we will ask Steve to read it. And then I go like this. And so I've got the reflections that we need. And then I have the poem on page 146. It laughs and it sneers. So I'm going to get Steve to read that for us.
Okay. Actually, before I just want to before I do that, Julie, just reflect on that, loving the rejected little boy, because a lot of what came from that was a whole lot of feelings of lack of self-worth. My writing's not good enough. No one loves me. It's all of those things that go round in a loop in our mind. All of those things came up, and it was a case of, okay, yep, I'm hearing that. That gets back to childhood stuff. It's probably time that I love that part of me, because we're all that, we're that dark and that light. John DeMartini says, I'm not a nice person, I'm not a mean person, I'm a combination of both of those. And so, I'm a combination of this rejected little boy who wants to run and hide, thinking he's not good enough, having low self-worth. But I'm also a warrior out there, bravely, sharing things with people. And I'm both of those. And until I love both of those, one's going to run. The warrior will be arrogant and forceful. The little boy will be small and shrinking. Until I love both of those, if one of those dominates, I'm kind of not complete, if that's if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So when I love both, I'm more of a complete version of me. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, so page 146, it laughs and sneers. I haven't read this one for a while. I picked a different one, Julie, but let's go with yours.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, okay, so it laughs and sneers. The fear of returning to work you no longer love. It sits with you, always there, knocking away. The fear of doing what you don't want to do. no matter how hard you try, it still holds sway. It snags you, reminds you, teases you, controls you, and it sits in your gut, not wanting to move. Everyone else enjoys their life, but you fight and kick and scream and no one hears. It's still just there, not going away. Everything's okay, there's nothing to fear. Why then does the mind laugh and sneer? The joke repeats and shrinks you just so. Another week to endure. Fast, I hope it will go.
So see how that relates to the story that you just shared about the books? You can't make this stuff up. How we are being informed always. And look how that made you emotional. I could feel my gut churning as well. Your words evoke emotion.
Yeah, I've got a down in my gut to a bit of a butterfly is maybe the wrong word, but there's something there, right? There's some energy there that it stirred up.
It did. Yeah. And I'm going to ask everyone to write in the chat, what did that stir up for you? Let's have a conversation about this. Because this is what we do in the silence of our head every day. I watched a show last night and it was about people feeling lonely but surrounded by other people. And it's this what goes on inside of you that is where the work needs to be done. And Steve, I don't know about you, but I feel that doing this inner work is something that we're not educated on. And you mentioned before that you are a warrior. I feel that it's connecting with feelings is what your mission is, what you're raising your sword up and saying, this scares the hell out of me, but I'm going to do it. I'll feel the fear and I'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
And
I also run a men's circle, Julian.
Do you?
One of those things that often comes up is that fear of leaning into your fear, and because for a guy, there's a whole lot of social conditioning about being a man and the breadwinner and the leader and all of those sorts of things, and it's an awful lot of pressure when you actually feel really small inside.
It is. It's a tremendous pressure.
Yeah. And I think, Jill, before I forget, I did want to say too, you're quite right about doing that inner work, because we are conditioned to, and a lot of what we do is we look outside of ourselves for the answers, right? So I feel unhappy, therefore I'm going to go and buy, ladies, a new dress online shopping, or, a guy buys a new boat, or whatever it might be. We're always looking outside for the answer, a new partner, a new this, a new job, a new career, all of those things. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong in and of themselves of any of those new things, but when they are a crutch for not actually looking within you, that's where I think that's one of the reasons we are unhappy, because we're always looking for the next trinket to hold on to. Now I'm happy, whereas when the sugar hit of that way wears off, well, we're just left with us.
That's it. We're just left with us.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to read these out, but I'm not going to say your names to keep your privacy. And that was how I felt all the time until I had that session with you, Julie, so many years ago. Those feelings left home during that amazing retreat and only visit rarely. That makes my heart pound to read that. That is so heartwarming, and thank you so much for sharing. That is absolutely, I'm doing my work. I'm doing what I was born to do for that response there. That is exactly how my daughter is feeling right now. She's unemployed and scared to take on a job she doesn't love. totally relate to that one. And I'm just going to read the next one, and then we'll go back to the middle one there, Steve.
Yeah.
I went straight to the gut, taking action to release what is not serving me and holding me. I surrendered a network membership yesterday that took me 6 weeks to own that decision. Wow. That is powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the power of your words, Steve. It evokes this. Then this is all deep. So I'm going to come back to, that's exactly how my daughter's feeling right now. How would you respond to this person?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, Julie, because one of the things I have issue with, and this might be unpopular, but I do really feel it deeply, is that the love and light crowd annoy me a lot at times. You know, if you just think positive, everything will be fine. Well, you know, I call bullshit to that. You've still got to live in this world. We've still got bills to pay. We've still got people. We've still got traffic to get through. All of those everyday things, you know, they still impact us. So and sometimes that's hard, you know, and I totally get that. Scared to take on a job she doesn't love. One, divine right timing. Two, sometimes you do have to do some things for a short period of time. But I remember in the Amazon doing the ayahuasca, the facilitators there, they were saying, at your lowest ebb, remember, this too shall pass. You know, so nothing's necessarily forever. Hey, I spent nearly 20 years in a job I didn't love. You know, and it was a very good teacher for me. It taught me beautiful skills. But it also did, it taught me to go on this path because I knew I didn't want to go on that path. So, you know, maybe your daughter does have to take on a job or two that she doesn't love to find the one that she does.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I'm going to come in there, Steve, because here's what not many people talk about is sometimes to get to where we want to go, there's steps that we have to take for that thread to become visible. And it may be that she takes a job she doesn't love because it's actually a stepping stone to where she wants to be. And in that job she doesn't love, there will be a skill that she learns that is essential for the next job. And so the other thing that I say to people is exactly what you said, Steve. Sometimes we need to do what we don't want to do to take care of our basic needs. But that's temporary. And then it's easier to get a job when you've got a job. And so I would recommend this book for your daughter. And I would actually encourage her to do the inner work. And this is what I encourage everyone. Do the inner work if you want to change your outer world. And like happened with Steve this last week, he actually didn't run away from the hurt and the pain of being rejected from those bookstores. He actually went all the way down and found what was at the bottom of that. And when you meet the unseen in you, you cannot unsee it. And then you have the opportunity to love it, accept it, and then your outer world change. So this is what I would encourage everyone to do, is do the inner work if you want your outer world to change. And I can't think of a better book than this one that you've written, Steve, for cracking open the door to go in there. And when I read those first poems that you sent me all those months ago, it went kapow in my heart and cracked me open. And I thought, when this book's published, I have to help you share it, because and look, calling BS on love and light, I'm more in your camp than the love and light camp, because I think that we do have to look at our shadow. We do have to go inwards, and just saying some affirmations every day and being positive is not where the growth is. This is what I also want to say, is the growth is in the uncomfortable. It is in the thing that you want to avoid. So lean into that.
That's beautiful, Julie. That's exactly right. It's interesting you mentioned affirmations. I've got a poem in there that's affirmations suck. Clearly I was grumpy that day when I wrote it, but I just it's really good to have positive thinking, but you also can't deny the other part of the human experience, which is pain and upset. And actually, getting back to the job thing, Julie, I just wanted to add, it reminds me of the Buddha saying that something along the lines of the root cause of all human suffering is attachment. And so what is your daughter attached to that's causing fear that she's going to go into one job, have to be there for the next 30 or 40 years because she's attached to that model of, so go and find a job. She doesn't like it, go and get another one. It doesn't mean you're a failure, it just means you tried a job. So whatever is holding her back is some attachment to something on the outside of her that she thinks, should be. We also put a lot of conditions on our self. It should be this way. I should do that. I have to do that. And, so I would encourage that. What am I attached to that's stopping me going and taking that job? But there is also that element of divine right timing,
Yeah. And everything is in divine order. And there's an author, and I'm not sure if I've spoken about this author before. Her name's Lillian Grace, and she wrote a book called The Hidden Order. And it's about a group of kids and some adults, and it gives some amazing illustrations of the hidden order, which is another word for the divine order. And I would encourage everyone to read that book as well. It's in my bookshelf and I pull it out every now and then. So I'm going to ask or invite you to ask Steve any questions that has come up from our talk. It's we could talk all day, Steve. I really feel that. So
actually, one thing while everyone's thinking of questions,
please go.
One other thing, just with that, she's worried about the job, taking a job she doesn't love. We are very much addicted to pleasure, and we run from pain. That we're hard. I don't want pain. I hate pain. I hate emotional pain. I hate physical pain. I'm a complete and utter wimp. I wimp out wherever I can, but I'm attached to pleasure. And so that's something for me to examine in my shadow. Am I pushing myself enough to actually be uncomfortable at times? And so, that whole thing of, I have to do something this way because that's the way it should be. Well, if you don't like it, go and do something else. I don't think there's ever been a time in human history where it's been easier to chop and change things, right? We can do something online, we can do something face to face, and we don't have to get stuck in one single line of work. And I think the other thing too, Jill, I want to say with this divine right timing thing is that I remember, maybe 6, 8, maybe might have been 12 months ago, time's sort of irrelevant to me, but I was having a session with a Vedic astrologer in Hawaii, and he according to all the charts, my birth time, birth date, etc., he said in 2000 and maybe it was 17, I entered my Saturn period. And the Saturn period, according to the Vedic way of the stars, it's a period that takes things away from you, but he said, now you're entering your life's work. And both my parents have passed away, and it's almost like he said, for the next 19 years, this is where you are doing your life's work. And the interesting thing he said to me was that you have to undo your karmic knots by service to people. And that just went, oh man. And when I thought about it, a lot of, even though I've been in service-based, helping other people, industries, the energy behind it was just, what can I get out of it? And that really hit me of, being of service to others. But notice I didn't start out doing this back when I was 22 or whatever, right?
No.
I had to go on this sometimes hideous, winding,
Winding road.
frustrating journey,
Yeah.
that has led me to this point. And this is kind of where, my life's work is starting. And
Yeah.
it was in the stars, to use a really overworn cliche.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a thought as you were saying that, and it's gone. So that means my mum used to say, well, if you've forgotten it, it was a lie. So I can't remember what the point was, but just recap what you said there, Steve.
I can't remember. It was.
See, we're both
it was a little while ago. So hang on. It was the Vedic astrologer Peter from Hawaii. And when he read my chart, he said that for the next 19 years is when I begin my life's work. The Saturn period is a period that takes things away. My parents have both passed away in the last couple of years. Undoing karmic knots through service to others.
That's it. Yes. Thank you. I want you
we
to
eventually got there.
Explain karmic knots to me.
Yeah. When he said that, I kind of went, okay, it's only just, they're only undoing in my mind, in the last, I don't know, month or so, as I'm really feeling into this. I do a little thing called Copywriters Escape Room with half a dozen copywriters every week. We just meet for an hour and talk about problems. And so I charge them a nominal fee, but I would make much more money if I was writing for someone else. So, I mean, it's that to me is a service. There is exchange of value. They pay a little bit of money. I give them my time. But that's a service. The running the Pendragon Men's Circle, which I've created, that's a service to humanity. And gee whiz, the changes that men have said from just talking openly like this, because blokes, hey, you're going over, oh, how's that footy going? And that's kind of about all blokes talk about, right? And there is a crying need for men to talk more freely about what's really inside them. Because, even though a lot of men have a really gruff exterior, men generally have a really soft heart. But they don't want to look at it because it's unmanly.
Right? Yeah. And the other thing that it triggered was I was watching TV last night, and I watch mostly ABC, and there's a show on that, it's on iView. It's How to Feel Younger, I think is the name of it. So they did research all around the world on illness and what happens in the body. And they said that when people are in service to others, not in being paid for it, but they're experiencing that happiness of working in a soup kitchen or delivering something as a volunteer, there's a change in their body that supports the immune system. And so when you said that this is when it's your time for service to humanity, it kind of went kapow, that there's things that we earn our money from, but there's also things that we give as our service. And that's for not only for the people that we give to, but it's actually in service to us as well, because it helps our immune system. It helps us be healthier. It helps us to stay younger, longer. It helps in tremendous ways. And I'm going to go back and watch it on iView to take some notes because it was so powerful. So if you're watching this and you want to look at some research that is quite fascinating, go check it out on iView.
The other way I would express that, Julie, is that when, and again, this is just from my personal experience in my different career things, when I was in service to me, or the energy of what can I get out of this, how much can I accumulate, it felt very forceful. And more recently, when I've been in service to others, it's been a lot more effortless, more flow. And that's the different energetic part of it. David Hawkins has written a great book, Power versus Force.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, David Hawkins, all of David Hawkins' work, Letting Go, they're all fantastic. But there is, I've been able to observe myself. Like, I guess in the past, I've been so task focused that it's head down, bum up, get it done, push through, all the BS that the gurus tell you about, get up at 4 a.m. in the morning and, work till 2 a.m. And, the gurus are always right, except when they're wrong. I swallowed all of that, Julie, but it wasn't till I really found parts of me that I'd never wanted to, to really see that, that flow has happened. However, what I do want to say is that, I don't want anyone listening to this to think that, hey, presto, now I'm all fixed, right?
Yep.
It's
works in progress.
Yeah. I fall off the horse. I think last time, Julie, I was expressing to you, you said, do you journal? And I said, yeah, I do every day. And then I went, shit, I haven't done it for about a week.
Yeah.
I as a writer, I hadn't written for a week because I was busy doing other things. Daughter's 21st, and son's this, and my work, and so the things about me I'd kind of forgotten about in the hustle and bustle of life. And instead of chiding myself about that, I was just like, okay, well, there's a good little thing, you need to get back on the horse. And I wrote a poem again this morning. That's probably the first one I've written in maybe 10 days. And I felt so good writing again, and it was a really good reminder again, not to punish myself, but as a flag in the sand about, okay, this is what you need to do.
It's what you need to do for your inner world to be balanced.
Yeah.
So for me, I have to go and take photos of flowers. And anyone who follows my Instagram page sees those flowers. But that's like my dialogue of communing with Source. Is I see something. I said to Frank, I see the world in photos. And when I see a flower, it triggers in me these feelings like your book does. The flowers speak to me, and my goal is that I be able to communicate that through the photo. And so for you, that inner work is writing.
Yeah.
We all have our thing, and when we honor ourselves and we do that thing that actually fills our vessel again, that's how we manage. That's how we cope with life. That's how we navigate, the valley floors and the summits. And just because you cross one valley floor and climb a summit doesn't mean you're not going down into the next valley floor.
Yeah.
Because that's how the journey goes. And but your book is a really wonderful resource to help people on that journey of the valley floor and the summit. And
to illustrate that, Julie, there's my summit, right?
Yes.
The little boy who got rejected was last week. There's the valley.
Correct.
So woohoo, I've published my book, and then I was smashed a week later, right? And I felt terrible, right?
Yeah.
You don't love me,
Yep.
I'm broken.
Correct.
It's not good enough, all that sort of stuff. So at no point is there any sort of perfection. Well, mind you, your photos, Julie, I do like them. I love them. They're close to perfection a lot of the time too, the way you get up close, and it really captures the mood. Julie, can I read the poem I was going to read this morning?
I was waiting for you to say that.
All right. So it's on page 122. It's called When Gaia Talks. And like I said, this is one of the ones that I love to slow down, just be in nature. That's again where I connect, like you do, with flowers. And I don't think as human beings we're not human beings, we're human doings, and we have, I think in general, lost our connection with the beauty of the earth. And my wife and I have been talking about when the kids leave, we'll go and live in an apartment. And I actually have just recently said, I just can't do that. I need to go and put my feet on the grass.
Yeah.
I can't be in concrete and be surrounded by concrete. I just feel like I'm in jail. And so when Gaia Talks is very much about that connection that as humans we have, but we've also lost. So it goes like this. When Gaia talks, The wind blows and we don't hear it. We're too busy rushing, doing, striving, pushing. The clouds roll in and we don't even look up. There's money to be made, bills to pay, trinkets to acquire. The waves curl over and crash down, but rarely do we see. We don't stop in awe. We walk on to the next thing. The rain trickles down, yet we have to get it all done. We don't marvel at the life it brings because there's important stuff to do. The majesty of life in faith goes on around us. We're too busy and frantic to slow and care. And this is why we're unhappy inside. See?
Yeah.
And just to explain how the book works, Julie, so I write the poem, I then tell you about my reflections, and I'll just read out what I wrote here. So often one of the things that has always perplexed me about poetry is the openness of it. And that has, I think that has repelled a lot of people. You know, is it a poem about a tree, or is it about the root cause of all evil that's spreading out into the world? So what I've tried to do is take away that confusion. This is what I was thinking and feeling when I wrote it, and see if that connects to you. So that's the second part, but the third part then are reflection exercises. Where is this in you, or what does this invoke in you? So I'll just read out what I wrote. So my reflections of this, I said, I love being in nature, the beach, the rainforest, the water. It struck me one day when I was alone paddling in a creek to wonder if people really take the time to listen and connect with Mother Earth, or to appreciate the beauty around us. My guess, sadly, is that the answer for many is no. All our electronic devices dull our senses and appreciation of the majesty of our planet. So when I returned from my paddle, this is what I wrote. It's almost a plea to my brothers and sisters to stop and smell the roses, so to speak.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful.
And thank you. And then your reflections, there are two things on the next 2 pages. Write a letter to Mother Nature. You may want to express gratitude, wonder, awe, or love, or even apologize to her. Open your heart, and then there's a page for you just to write what comes to you. And then there's a bit more reflection on that on the next page. I'll say, what emotions came up for you in this process? Did anything surprise you? And so it's an opportunity to go and look within about how do you feel about this beautiful planet that we're on? How do you feel about the way we're treating it? How do you feel when people don't stop to look at the beautiful photos that you take of flowers, or notice, you know, gee, is that an angel in the clouds? You know, whatever that might be. And so that's what I said, that connection to Earth, where Mother Earth is always talking to us.
And you said the one word that is, if somebody said, what's your one word in the entire vocabulary, it is awe. And you use that word there, and awe and wonder is my expectation of every day when I wake up. I expect it because that's my fuel. And in that program last night that I was talking about earlier, they said that they can measure awe in your body when you experience awe. So I highly recommend it. And when I heard that, I went, dang, I'm getting it. And it's awe and wonder. And anyone who's known me for a while knows that awe and wonder is the magic that runs through my life. And so you chose that poem, and it basically went into my heart, and I expanded like this, that I've met another human being who knows about awe and wonder. So that was what your poem did for me. And I'm sure it will do different things for every person who reads it, because it's the personal journey that you're opening people up to. We have talked for 47 minutes, Steve.
Wow.
And I think that we probably need to wrap up. So what I'm going to say is, you can get this book on stevevincentonline.com. And which bookstores?
All right, so Mystic Universe at Maroochydore on the Sunshine Coast, Harry Hartog at Sunshine Plaza, and the Little Book Nook at Palmwoods, which is all on the Sunshine Coast, obviously where I live. So they're the three main bookstores, and my chiropractor, Wave Chiropractic, is also stocking it. He messaged me last night on Instagram and said, you know, we sold a book to a lady today. She's got a friend going through some really tough times, and she thought this will help her. So
nice.
you know, that was a really good moment in terms of, wow, this work might help people and inspire people. And you know, and David Hawkins, if you're familiar with his work, Julie, you'll know the level of consciousness. You know, anger and fear are right down the bottom, and you know, if this does anything to get people up that spiral of consciousness, you know, then it is doing a service to humanity.
100%. And just by raising each of our frequencies, by us doing the inner work, we are actually helping raise the consciousness of the planet. And so any last words of wisdom, Steve?
You can follow me on Instagram, Steve Vincent. I think it's __ double underscore. That's where you know, I see your photos, Julie. I don't do anything on Facebook. Look, one of the last time we read, Julie, was the Just Be. I think that's really important as well. You know, we're so friggin' caught up in, you know, and I call it trinkets. We're always after trinkets, you know. We've got bills to pay, and we've got a new car to pay off, and we've got a house that we really want, and you know, we're always looking for those trinkets. And when you stop and when you sit and when you peel off all your labels of husband, wife, son, daughter, mother, father, like, and it's just you. Who are you?
Whoa.
When you
that just went kapow. Who are you?
Yeah, just be and find out who you really are when you're not mum or dad or you know, and just be, just spend more time just being with who you are and getting to know who you really are. That to me is one of the things that I think has changed my world, is just even for 5 minutes every day. Just being and try and empty your mind. A still mind is such a beautiful gift. Yet we've always got a million things. We've got a deadline. We've got to pick the kids up. Got to do this. Blah, 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 blah. It's not just me, is it? Who's like that? You know, but just be. Who are you in that? Once all those things are gone, you know. The interesting thing too is it's like waiting for retirement to really do what you want and really know who you are. Well, screw that. Well, why do you have to do that? You know, start with those small moments of just being and being with yourself, and who are you really, and what do you really want to do without the expectations that are placed on you every day. So just be.
I love that, Steve. So we are going to wrap up this interview with the words just be, and I want to thank everyone for coming, and I look forward to seeing you pop into the group, Steve, and maybe share a poem every now and then and invite people to be. That would be an absolute honor for you to do that.
I don't do much on Facebook. I don't do anything on Facebook under Steve Vincent. I'm mostly on Instagram. That's where a lot of my stuff is. So if it will be under my so just to explain this, a lot of people ask, well, you know, so my real name, my full name is Steve Plummer, Steve Vincent Plummer. And I write under, when I write poetry, I'm accessing a different part of myself. The Steve Plummer is the commercial side of me, and I still have bills to pay like everyone else. When I access that more spiritual, poetic side of me, I write under my first two names, Steve Vincent. So, and people go, oh, is there a spiritual? No, I just think it sounds really cool, right? It sounds like a cool writer's name. I'm pragmatic like that, right? As much as I might connect to different things, I'm also a pragmatic person because I live in a pragmatic world. And I wrote it down one day and I went, God, I love that. And it's still my name, right? It's my middle name. So it's still
your middle name. And you know what I love about it, Steve, is that you're actually straddling both worlds. You have identified Steve Vincent as the poet, spiritual teacher. Steve Plummer earns dollars and you know, navigates that human world, and Steve Vincent navigates the metaphysical world. And thank you for explaining that. because I forgot to ask you that. So thank you so much.
I mean, I've got 4 kids, so I've got bills to pay, right?
We all have bills to pay.
I got big bills to pay. I got 4 kids, so yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Steve. It has been an absolute honor to sit and chat with you.
Oh, thank you, Jill. It's been an honor to be here and share. Thank you.
Thank you. And I look forward to seeing what you do next.
All right, happy to come back anytime, Julie. So thank you everyone for your time and for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. So we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.